Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. And I think we should begin the session now. We are already late, half an hour. So we have with us Mr. Diana and Mr. Vitis Vitunas from Lithuania. And we have a special session. And the resource person for this is Mr. Vitis Vitunas. And the session is on Sanskrit and Lithuanian language. Linguistics historical notes, linguistics and historical notes. So I would like to call upon Mr. Vitis Master on the dais along with Ms. Diana. So please. We are directly starting this particular session, and I'd like to introduce Mr. Vitis Master. So we are honored that I'm with us, a distinguished scholar and educator, Vitis Master, a pioneer in the field of Sanskrit linguistics and the person responsible for initiating the teaching of Sanskrit in independent Lithuania. Mr. Vidunas has dedicated his career to the study and promotion of Sanskrit and its connection to the Lithuanian language, enriching the linguistics and cultural history of both nations. Mr. Vidunas has been teaching Sanskrit at Vilnius University since 1991. He is also the author of Lithuanian Sanskrit Dictionary, published by the Lithuanian Language Institute and Lithuanian Embassy in India in 2016. He is currently working on his PhD thesis on Pratishakyas and ancient Indian linguistic traditions, furthering our understanding of the linguistic roots of Sanskrit. Throughout his career, Mr. Vidunas has not only taught Sanskrit, but also played a vital role in founding a leading institution dedicated to Oriental studies. He has published a lot of research papers and books. He is the founder of Sanskrit Studies at Vilnius University and the co-founder of the Center of Oriental Studies. Additionally, he has been the president of Lithuanian Indian Forum, fostering the bonds between these two nations. Mr. Vidyanathan's work has not only been pedagogically but also deeply research oriented. His publications include translation from Rigveda and Gita Namaskara and an extensive Sanskrit Lithuanian dictionary, among other contributions to Sanskrit studies. Today, we have the privilege of digging into the linguistics and historical connection between Sanskrit and Lithuanian language through the insight and expertise of Vitis. Please join me in welcoming students to this particular conference and this session. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for this nice introduction. Yes, it's quite complicated for me to keep microphone and manage to draw my talk, but I will try to. So, dear colleagues, it's a great honor for me to be here in front of you, and it will be easier if I'm One, two. Du. Vienas, du, trys, keturi. Lithuania. Eka. Three. Thank you very much. In this case, and again, it's a great honor to be here with you, dear colleagues. It's a great pleasure because when I studied Sanskrit studies in Pune, it was the subject I've had even since my very young times. My teacher was prominent Russian scholar Tatiana Zarenkova, and we talked about Sanskrit studies in Pune. So I'm very happy to be here with you today. Thank you very much for this kind invitation. Yes, and I again want to give thanks to my friend and Her Excellency, the ambassador of Lithuania in India, Diana Mickevičienė. He arranged the cycle of my lecture. She arranged my lectures here. I'm sorry, a little bit confused. Yes. So thank you all, and let me start. My topic is Sanskrit and Lithuanian linguistic and historical notes, as you see. And let's talk about some terms. Firstly, I will speak about bolts, ancient bolts, and I will speak about the world and the words, first topic. And this, you could see in this photo, common figure on Lithuanian houses, especially in rural areas. You see two horses on both ends of the room. The old tradition tells that figures protect houses from fire and bring prosperity to the family. Yes, and you know their name in Lithuanian is Ashlieni. Ashlieni. So, of course, this is some kind of intrigue, and I will return back to this gods in the end of my presentation. But of course, you already know what I'm talking about, because we just before this talk, we went to see the main buildings of Dekan College, and I see the name Asvina, I don't know how to Marathi pronounce, on your building. So you have it. So this will be. I will explain this symbol in the end of my presentation. So, firstly, I would like to talk about terms. What do we mean under the term bolts? You know that according to the comparative linguistics, the Lithuanian language belongs to the Baltic branch of Indo-European family of languages. I would like to say a few words about so-called bolts and the term the Baltic languages itself. The designation bolts can be used in two different meanings, depending upon whether we use it in a geopolitical sense or in a linguistic ethnological sense. The first, the geopolitical sense, means the Baltic states on the eastern coast of the Baltic Sea, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. You see these states on the map. In the north is Estonia, in the middle is Latvia, and in the south is my country, Lithuania. And usually in medias, if they are talking about Baltic states, they mean this: 3 Baltic states. This is the first meaning. However, it was about these states. These 3 states before the World War II were independent and then were occupied by the Soviet Union, and we regained our independence in 1990. However, we shall not speak of the modern Baltic states, but of the people who belong to one linguistic group of the Indo-European family of languages, that is, of the Lithuanians, Latvians, and Old Prussians, who were extinct by the end of the 18th century. And, of course, another Baltic king tribes, many of which disappeared during the course of prehistory and history without written sources. The Estonians, I want to stress this point, the Estonians in this sense should be excluded since they are Finno-Ugrians, different family languages, and speak a language entirely different from the Indo-European languages and are of a different origin. If we have Baltic states as a geopolitical term, we have 3 states. If we speak about Balts in linguistic and ethnological sense, we have only nations or people who speak so-called Baltic languages. Lithuanian, today, as for today, Lithuanian, Latvian, and extinct tribes mentioned above. In this figure, in this map, you could see area of Baltic nations and Baltic languages in the very beginning of the 13th century. By the way, this figure was taken by me a few days ago, just a few days ago, from the book of famous Lithuanian archaeologist and explorer, Professor Marija Gimbutienė, Marija Gimbutas, as she is called in international tradition. She published the book, The Balts, and this scheme I found exploring, together with our ambassador, we explored the library of Professor Sumiti Kumar Chatterjee in Delhi just a few days ago in the Gandhi National Center of Arts, and we found the book with marks of famous Indian linguist Sumiti Kumar Chatterjee, with marks which were made on this book, and he studied this book, and he was interested, so we have some long-lasting scientific relations as well. Then, about the name Balts. The name Balts, deriving from the Baltic Sea, Mare Balticum, in ancient sources, is a quite new term introduced by the German linguist Ferdinand Nesselmann in 1845, and naming the people speaking so-called Baltic languages, again, Old Prussian, Lithuanian, Latvian, extinct Curonian, Semi-Gallian, and Salian. The last 3 and Old Prussians are extinct tribes. The Old Prussian language, as it was mentioned above, disappeared by the beginning of the 18th century due to German colonization of East Prussia. Curonian, Semi-Gallian, and Salian disappeared somewhere between the 15th and 17th centuries. Other Eastern Baltic languages or dialects became extinct in the proto-historic or early historic period and are not preserved in the written sources. So, as I mentioned already, nowadays at least only Lithuanian and Lettish are the living languages. I need to mention that you could find in scientific literature another term which is concerned with the name of our tribes, of our languages. At the beginning of the 20th century, the term ISPE as another name of these languages was used. This was taken from the Roman historian Tacitus. In his book Germania, in the end of the first century, Tacitus has mentioned Gentes Aestiorum, ST tribes, the people living on the eastern shore of the Baltic Sea. And from Tacitus we learned that in the first century, Aesti were the people collecting amber and cultivating crops. According to Tacitus, they worshipped the mother goddess and wore masks which protected them. What is amber mentioned in the works of Tacitus? Amber is fossilized tree resin, and this fossilized resin was valued from antiquity to the present as a gemstone, and ST tribes, or we call it them Baltic tribes, kept trading even with the Roman Empire. I will take some pause and will show you something. I wanted you to touch what is amber, because this is our very important gem for our culture. Yes. This is, and again, I took it from Lithuania, and you would send on hands and to keep. Just you will feel that this is not stone. This is like tree resin, which is fossilized, and it's very light. You could see. Even you see it could be insects in this stones. So, can you assist me? Thank you. Again, so from Tacitus we know that, by the way, that the worshipping of Mother Goddess, female deity, was very important in the ancient Baltic world. The prominent Lithuanian scholar mentioned above, Maria Gimbutienė, or Gimbutas, according to international scientific tradition, has proved this fact in her works as well. I want to underline this because I consider that mythology could be the topic of our further investigations. Let's go. The ancient Balts apparently had not their own writings. No inscriptions have been found on stone or birch barks. The earliest writings of Russian and Lithuanian date from the 14th or even the 16th centuries. All earlier knowledge concerning Balts was from foreign chronicles, ancient Greek, Latin, Germanic, and Slavonic. I took as illustration manuscript of the Rig Veda I found 10 years ago in Kerala, at Trivandrum University Manuscript Library. And this is famous Purusha Suktam, on palm leaf. I found it. And just as an example, what I wanted to underline that both in Lithuanian tradition, both in ancient Vedic tradition, manuscripts are very late, of late age, because you had Shruti tradition. It was oral tradition, and people kept and are keeping translate to give from what from one generation to another these texts from one from elder generation to younger and so on and so on. This should. And in Lithuania, we also have very late scriptures or just reaching only the 14th century. That's one thing. And again, one more thing, the lands occupied by the contemporary Balts are approximately 1/6 to the territory they occupied by them in the prehistoric times. We know that from toponyms, especially hydronyms, in the wide areas of Russia and Ukraine of nowadays, there are many Baltic words borrowed by Finno-Ugrians and even by the Volga Finns who live in the eastern Russia. You see the area which is supposed to was under Balts in ancient times. In black again, this map was taken from the book of Maria Gimbutienė. And let's turn to the second topic of my presentation, Sanskrit and Lithuanian. I will give some historical perspective. This is, I want to say how we see Sanskrit in Lithuanian. So, Sanskrit from Lithuanian side. So, since the 19th century, the interest intellectuals in Sanskrit has been strongly influenced by the linguistics. You know, of course, that Franz Bopp, German linguist, one of the founders of comparative linguistics, was one of the first to introduce the Lithuanian language into the field of scientific research. And the Lithuanian language, by the way, as well as Sanskrit, became very important languages for Indo-European linguistics. And displaying abundant morphological matches between various Indo-European languages, Franz Bopp, by the way, has presented a wide range of comparative tables where juxtaposition of Sanskrit and Lithuanian data is always of great importance. Franz Bopp, for instance, gives comparisons of Sanskrit forms of locative singular, form Frikke in the wolf, Patyal in the Lord and the husband, Sunau in the son, with corresponding Lithuanian grammatical forms, the same. Vilke with the same meanings, by the way, with totally the same meanings, Vilke, Patya, Sunuya. And laying the foundation in linguistics, Franz Bopp brought forth a scientific tradition of Sanskrit-Lithuanian linguistic comparisons as well. So, from the 19th century, we see Sanskrit and the Lithuanian language put in the field of scientific researches. It's very important for our further development. Discoveries of linguistics inspired a lot of educated people in Lithuania to look for different links between Lithuanian and other Indo-European cultural traditions. Public discussions concerning Indo-Lithuanian relations and linguistic resemblances between Sanskrit and Lithuanian had started, I can say, even earlier, just before Bopp's works, Franz Bopp's works, in the very beginning of the 19th century. It means before Pope and other linguists published their investigations and formed comparative linguistics as a scientific discipline. Again, I want to show some persons and to give some names. In the beginning of the 19th century, in 1826, our famous humanitarian Lithuanian humanitarian Dionysas Poška, in his letter to the historian and professor of Vilnius University, Joachim Leleva, Dionysas Poška in this case is on the left, and Joachim Leleva on the right, presuppose. This is a quotation from his work I have read, I found it, that Sanskrit could be the father and the mother of all languages. Well, what does it mean? It means that Sanskrit and Lithuanian links were the subject of scientific discussion even at that time, in the very early years of the 19th century. More detailed Sanskrit-Lithuanian linguistic links were discussed in the articles and public lectures of German scholar Peter Bohlen, again in the 19th century. Peter Bohlen was probably the first scholar who used in his Sanskrit-Lithuanian comparisons the phrase, "the god gave teas, the god will give bread." This is English translation. Now listen how it is in Sanskrit. In Sanskrit we have Devodam tam adadat devodanam dasya. And now listen my native language, Lithuanian language. Dievas dantis davė, Dievas duoną duos. This is resemblances of almost the same sentence in two different languages. This phrase was cited again by Simonas Daukantas in the 19th century, who was the first author of Lithuanian history in the Lithuanian language. After that, this phrase has been continuously cited in linguistic comparisons by various scholars up to this day, and even 2 or more, few years ago, I consulted my colleague, and he was asking about his phrase again, and used it in his paper. The ideas related to possible linguistic and cultural links between Lithuania and India became quite common among educated people in Lithuania, and the topic was widely discussed from the very beginning of the 19th century. I guess that the reason of such awareness could be related to the common high level of science and education at Vilnius University at that time, and I guess to the activities of aforesaid Joachim Leleva, a very popular professor of history who was an author of the first monograph in the Eastern Europe, by the way, dedicated to the history of India. Unfortunately, we have very complicated history with a few occupations and so on, and all these activities were interrupted when Vilnius University, my alma mater, was closed by the Russian authorities after our uprising in 1831. So we could speak about the two waves of interest in Sanskrit in the 19th century, and the second wave was of a romantic rather than purely academic ideological movement, and it started in the beginning, and this romantic movement started in the beginning of the 20th century, or even during the last years of the 19th century. The first wave of that kind could be concerned with the intellectual aspirations in the beginning of the 19th century mentioned above. In both cases, this interest in Sanskrit and Indian culture was related to the raising of the national movement, which continued in the last decades of the 20th century. Even in the 20th century, when the process of liberation from the Soviet oppression was afoot, in Lithuania at that time ideas about Indo-Lithuanian relations were discussed widely again, and I remember that times. So Sanskrit, Indian, Lithuanian-Indian relations were very inspired. We were inspired by this when we gained our independence. Uh, uh, and of course, I want to show that this keen interest in Sanskrit and Indian culture was particularly evident in the first decades of the 20th century too. The idea that Lithuanians should look for their relations with India became very, very popular. It had to do with the increasing national movement and the quest of the national identity. I want again to show you two persons and to give you two names. One of the founders and creators of the contemporary Lithuanian national idea and the famous explorer of the Lithuanian folk tradition, Dr. Jonas Basanavičius, was he is on the left again, was familiar with these research efforts and even exchanged correspondence with some prominent Indian scholars of that time, such as, for instance, Dr. Jivanjit Jamshedji Modi from this time it was Bombay, now Mumbai, and they kept correspondence, and so we have long-lasting scientific relations between our scientists. So now let's turn to the third topic, and this is a comparative perspective. I would like to show some correspondences, linguistic correspondences between the Lithuanian language and Sanskrit. In the first, I want to say that thanks to this interest, until now there has been a nice popular myth among common Lithuanian people. This myth is going around that all Lithuanians do not need any interpreter to speak with Indian people. For the Lithuanian language and Sanskrit are almost identical. So if you speak Lithuanian, you could go to India and speak Lithuanian, and people will understand you. This is very popular. Even me, when I tell people that I'm teaching Sanskrit, they say, common people, of course, not academic people, say, oh, Sanskrit, so it's Lithuanian, the Lithuanian language, you could speak Sanskrit, Lithuanian language in India. Yes, the question is more complicated than this popular opinion, of course. However, some similarities of this kind are easily perceptible, especially at the lexical level. First of all, I would like to take the term Sanskritam in the beginning. It is put in nominative case, the name of the language, in Devanagari. Characters, but I will use for comparisons the Latin characters. It's easier to follow because we use Latin characters in Lithuanian. If we take Sanskrit term Sanskrita without ending, just stem form as usual, Sanskrita, and the Lithuanian word sukurta. It is the same, how to say, it is the same grammatical reality, the same, so Sanskrit, we have stem form, perfect passive participle, and you know very well, of course, all of you here know that it means created, elaborated, perfect, yes. And in Lithuanian we have the same word, perfect participle, sukurta, created, elaborated, the same. If we take morphological analysis of this two words, we see that we have prefix in Sanskrit, sam, and when in Sanskrit is prefix sam, in Lithuania we usually have prefix su with totally the same meaning. The same meaning. Then you know that between the root, the dhatu, kri, in Sanskrit word, and prefix sam, we have which is not prefix, it is like German linguists call them Wurzeldeterminative. It appears according to some phonetic conditions and has no meaning of just before prefix and root. We have without meaning, and the root Sanskrit root, you know, of course, very well. Kri. We pronounce usually we in the West this sonant we pronounce ri, skri, kri. So this is a vowel, you know very well. And we have no such sounds in Lithuania at all, because we have no, but I want to tell you that when we have Sanskrit, usually in the Lithuanian language we will have diphthongs ir, il, ur. One of that. Usually it's of such kind. So if we take the root kri, Sanskrit root, and Lithuanian root dhatu, also Lithuanian kur, it is the same root etymologically, the total correspondence with the same meaning. And again, the suffix of past perfect participle in Lithuanian is ta, as well as in Sanskrit is ta. So we have what is written in Sanskrit, it could be written in Lithuanian with the same meaning. I want to stress this. And of course, we could find many resemblances, many correspondences of such kind. I can't put in my short presentation. I beg your patience, but I will show some. So I put examples of these correspondences because, you know, lexical correspondences are very easy understandable, even for common people. They like lexical correspondences when we are preparing, when we are comparing languages. And therefore, I put, it was mentioned by my colleague that I published not very big book with 108 words from Lithuanian and from Sanskrit with very clear correspondences, very clear, just to demonstrate. It was a starting point. I hope for further our investigations, and we hope that even Indian scholars will be interested, and we could do such work of comparison together. This is, by the way, one of our objections of our these lectures. So, some examples from this dictionaries. Again, most of you know Sanskrit, and therefore I want to say that I put Sanskrit ending s, not visarga, because visarga is usual in Sanskrit grammars. I know, of course, I know this, that if we have, I have written here devas, in Sanskrit it will be devaha. With visarga in there, because becomes visarga is regular Sanskrit law. According to the regular Sanskrit law, you know very well. But I put because it's easier to demonstrate correspondences. So in Lithuania, God name is Dievas, and in Sanskrit, the same meaning, devas, in sheep. In Lithuanian, avis, in Sanskrit, avis, no comments. In Lithuanian, female horse, ashva, in Sanskrit, ashvas, with the same. And in Lithuanian, we have tumas, small plume, and in Sanskrit, humas with initial aspirated stop, aspirated consonant. In this consonant, I want to say that we have no aspirated consonants in Lithuanian. So usually when in Sanskrit we have aspirated consonant, in Lithuanian will be the same consonant without aspiration. And so again, we see some examples which is traceable for phonetic change. For example, we have Lithuanian word locus, field, space, and in Sanskrit this word is locus. Honey, medus, madhu in Sanskrit, Jama, cold period, winter in Sanskrit, hima. Again, I want to say that it's regular, that where we have the Sanskrit sound ha, in Lithuania we have which is character is Z with special character on it. And then we have Agnis and Ugnis meaning fire. I want to show you just two more special cases. This year is very special for us because we celebrate the 700 years from the establishing of our capital, Vilnius. Vilnius is our capital city, and we love it very much, of course. So, and I want to show some correspondences related with the name Vilnius and with the legend which is related with our city. Very short. Vilnius is the dream city, by the way, and our ancient king, Gediminas, he is in the monument of Gediminas you could see here. This is in this central and main square of Vilnius. Oh, 5 minutes. Okay, I will try. So, I will try. Just I wanted to do some final notes. Okay. But Vilnius, this is the legend that Gediminas, after hunting, fell asleep and dreamed iron wolf on the hill, which was holding like hundreds of wolves. And in this place he established a city. So it's the legend. This legend, it's like your Purana. Our Purana is for Vilnius is like dream of Gediminas. And in 1323, Vilnius already was established. But if we take this region, we see that sapnas, a dream, in Sanskrit we have swapnas. And vilkas, by the way, evolved in Sanskrit is vrikas. So if we see, we have two words of this legend related with Sanskrit. And again, in this photo from above, you see big river Neris, and in this area, small river, Vilna, runs down the hill and meets Neris in that place. So it is considered that the name Vilnius comes from the hydronym river's name Vilna. Vilna is a rapid river with many small bays. A small wave is Vilnius in Lithuanian, and Vilnius is a cognate with the Sanskrit word urmis, or even with such Sanskrit cognates as urna, wool. By the way, wool in Lithuanian is Vilna again, Vala's cave, Vala, Vala Vitraga, and even with the word vr, to close to cover. And the last example, the Lithuanian river with a Sanskrit name is placed in the north from Vilnius. It's very beautiful river, small river, Siesartis. Siesartis. On the banks of this river was born our friend, Her Excellency Diana Mickiewicz. She spent her childhood on the banks of this river. So this is etymologically related with the Sanskrit verbal root sr, to run, sri, to run, flow, move rapidly. And present tense, you know, could be sarati or sisarti. So if you have sisartis, so more intensive form in Sanskrit is sisarti, which means she runs, flows, moves rapidly. And in Lithuanian, we have verbs rooted to flow abundantly. And again, very fast, we have grammar correspondences, nominative case, total. Devas, devas, locative case, deve, deve, and instrumental case, device. These cases correspond no, and in all points. And again, a comparative table of indicative conjugation in Sanskrit and Lithuanian of the verb to be. In Lithuanian, asmi, asi, asti, and in Lithuanian, esmi, esi, asti. So we, sorry, you want me to finish or? Of course, I'm in a hurry. I would like to talk more, but you know, and we can speak Lithuanian and Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, for example, the question "kas tvam asi." In Lithuanian will be "kas tu esi." Who are tu? In Sanskrit, you know, famous phrase from Upanishads, "tat tvam asi." In Lithuanian, "tat tu esi." So that's examples. And I wanted just to show, you know, Rigveda 1:1. Agnimile purohitam yajnesya devam ritrijam hotaram ratnadakamam. Agnik purve birishi viridio nutanai rutas devam eha vakshati. If we take the word ugnis, agnis, the fire, and you know that in Rigveda 1:1 we have some kind like table of declination of agnis, and if we compare agnim, ugni, accusative case, agnis, ugnis, agnina, ugnimi, agni, vocative case, ugnia are the same correspondences in this. And so, final notes. Up till now, the single scientific monograph dedicated to these cultural and linguistic ties has been the book. I mentioned about famous Indian linguist Suniti Kumar Chatterjee. By the way, in preparation for this book, our famous scholar and traveler of the beginning of the first decades of the 20th century, Dr. Antanas Moshka helped, and they kept relations and communicated, and you see in this photo Suniti Kumar Chatterjee in the middle with Antanas Moshka and his daughter in Vilnius. He visited Vilnius before publishing his monograph Balts and Tarians, which was published in 1968. And the chapter of the book is designed to the linguistic features of the Baltic languages. But this, I was 8 years old when this book was published. So since that, it was nothing done, and we need to do something with this, I guess. And if do not take to account my modest book, it could be much more work could be done. So, despite this quite picturesque history of Indian studies in Lithuania, spanning more than 2 centuries, it's obvious that a lot of work still could and must be done, both in the field of academic research and in preparing the main and educational tools, handbooks, dictionaries, etc. Therefore, we could express a modest hope that our common attempts will inspire explorers for India and Lithuania to proceed with further investigations in this very important field of linguistic and common cultural studies. And in the end, again, Ashriani, and on the right you see well-known Vedic gods from Vedas, Ashrinal, the same function. Let us pray for Ashrinal to help us in our works. Thank you very much for kind attention.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. You have paid very good attention towards the linguistic inquiries between the Sanskrit and Lithuanian. And specifically, I was interested looking at the morphological phonetic and definitely the lexicon, which is one of the major important feature we look to compare languages. But more interestingly, the grammatical part. Thank you so much once again. Now we'd like to felicitate our special lecturers, the special guest with this webinar, sir. I would like to call upon on the stage our Professor, Pro Vice Chancellor, sir, Professor Prasad Joshi, sir, felicitate Mr. with this webinar, sir.
This is a souvenir from Vilnius University. I was to my alma mater, so I'm very proud to be here. Thank you very much for this. Good, that's the same. Very nice, very nice. It's a very nice and symbolic. Thank you very much.
We also would like to felicitate Ms. Diana from Ambassador from Lithuania in India. I would like to call up. Thank you so much. This was very good session and insightful too. And
Indian subjects and Sanskrit with this professor?
I haven't mentioned that correction to Diana, but the first Sanskrit student of mine. So when I came back from Western, I started teaching, and Diana came to learn Sanskrit, and now she's here.
So this connection of mine to Sanskrit and Indology is an important thing that brought me to Pune and Deccan College. So I would like to thank the Deccan College and the Pro-Vice Chancellor, Dr. Prasad Joshi, and to hand him over. The first thing is the Lithuanian Sanskrit Dictionary of Identical Words, which is to illustrate the connection that is very strong and is being written by Professor. And some sweet chocolates from Lithuania.
With our national flag.
The national flag colors. Thank you very much for hosting us. And I really look forward to more academic collaboration because we have an excellent Center for Asian and Transcultural Studies, of which a professor is representative, where we could definitely develop some cooperation.
Sir, one doubt.
Sure.
Of course, there is somewhat similarity with the Sanskrit language, Lithuanian language. Among the European countries' language, only this Lithuanian language is very much similar to Sanskrit, isn't it, sir? So, is there our Indian culture in that country? Yes, traces of Indian culture can be seen in Lithuania. That is not my doubt. Of course, the language has so much of similarity.
Not Indian, but ancient culture of Lithuania, the pre-Christian culture, could be compared with ancient Indian culture. Of course.
Hinduism is there in Lithuania?
No, we have no.
We can begin with the next session immediately. So, thank you so much. Please be seated and we'll start next session begin. हरि ओम सर्वेभ्यः नमस्कारः अत्र उपस्थितेभ्यः मम ध्वनिः श्रूयते वा सर्वेभ्यः नमस्कारः मम स्वीय परिचयः वदामि अहमस्मि डॉक्टर वै सुरेशः भाग्यनगर हैदराबादतः आगतवान् अहं भारतीय विद्या भवन विवेकानंद महाविद्यालये संस्कृत आचार्य रूपेण कार्यं कुर्वन् अस्मि अस्य सत्रस्य संयोजकः अस्मि इदानीं भाषा संस्कृतिम् उद्दिश्य किञ्चित् वक्तुम् इच्छामि समयः अधिकं नास्ति इति कारणेन भारतीय संस्कृतेः आत्मा संस्कृतं वैदिक संस्कृतेः रक्षणा अस्माकं कर्तव्यं भारतीय संस्कृतेः रक्षणा अस्माकं कर्तव्यं वेदे सर्वं प्रतिष्ठितं वेद पठनं वेद अध्ययनं वेदस्य प्रचारः अस्माभिः करणीयः किमर्थम् इत्युक्ते या विश्वावर प्रथमा संस्कृति विश्वे प्रथम संस्कृति किम् इत्युक्ते वैदिक संस्कृतिः वयं यदा वयं वैदिक संस्कृतेः आचरण प्रचारं करिष्यामः चेत् तदा एव भारतदेशः पुनः विश्वगुरुः भविष्यति इति मम अभिप्रायः अत्र संस्कृतम् इतः पूर्वं सामान्य जनभाषा रूपेण आसीत् संस्कृतम् इतः पूर्वम् अस्माकं नरे नरे कने कने संस्कृतम् अस्ति आसीत् भविष्यति संस्कृतस्य प्रचारः अस्माकं कर्तव्यं संस्कृत यदि वयं यत्र कुत्रापि यदा कदा संस्कृतगोष्ठी अस्ति जनाः ते किं वदन्ति यत्र संस्कृतगोष्ठी अस्ति तत्र सर्वेपि वृद्धाः एव आगच्छन्ति इति ते वदन्ति अत्र अहं किं वदन् अस्मि किं वक्तुम् इच्छामि युवकानां यदि युवकाः तेषां मस्तिष्केषु वैदिक भारतीय संस्कृत बीजान् तेषां मस्तिष्केषु वयं स्थापयामः योजयामः चेत् युवकाः उत्तम शिक्षकाः उत्तम धर्मरक्षकाः उत्तम संस्कृत प्रचारं कुर्वन्ति इति मम अभिप्रायः। इदानीं अस्य सत्रे केवलं 3 पत्राणि सन्ति। इदानीम् अहम् आह्वयामि अन्यत् एकं विषयं वक्तुम् इच्छामि। यः धर्मः जानाति यः संस्कृतं जानाति स एव धर्मप्रचारः करोति। धर्मरक्षणः कः करिष्यति? केवलं यः संस्कृतं सम्यक् जानाति यः धर्मः संस्कृतं जानाति स एव धर्मप्रचारः करोति। वयं संस्कृतज्ञाः वयं संस्कृतविद्वांसः अस्माकं कर्तव्यं संस्कृतभाषायाः रक्षणम्। इदानीं वयं विश्वविद्यालयेषु पाठशालासु कलाशालासु वयं संस्कृतपठनपाठन कार्यं करिष्यामः। इदानीं यदा सप्ताहे एकं दिनं तत्र विश्वविद्यालये पाठशालासु कलाशालासु बहिरागत्य वयं ग्रामं ग्रामं गत्वा सामान्यजनानां कृते संस्कृतभाषायाः महत्त्वं वैशिष्ट्यं तेषां प्रति तेषां सकाशे वयं तत्र गत्वा प्रचारः वयं करिष्यामः चेत् संस्कृतभाषायाः अभिवृद्धिः भविष्यति। इदानीं प्रोफेसर जगदीश शर्मा महोदयम् अत्र आह्वयामि। अस्सां विश्वविद्यालये संस्कृत विभागे प्राचार्यः महोदयः आबाल्य संस्कृतमाध्यमेन पठितवान्। संस्कृतभाषा अहर्निशं संस्कृतभाषायाः प्रचारः करोति स्म। संस्कृतभाषायाः अभिवृद्ध्यर्थं प्राचुर्यार्थं तस्य सम्पूर्णजीवितं त्यागं कृतवान् इति गर्वेण वक्तुम् इच्छामि भवन्तः सर्वेषां पुरतः। इदानीम् अस्य सत्रस्य चेर्पर्सन् रूपेण प्रोफेसर जगदीश महाभागम् अत्र आह्वयामि। इदानीं प्रप्रथम डॉक्टर मंजरी बालेराव महोदयम् अत्र आह्वयामि शोधपत्रं पठितुं। कृपया अत्र आगच्छन्तु। सलीम महाभाग कुत्र अस्ति? कृपया एकवारम् अत्र आगच्छतु।
At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to present my views and the glimpses of Indian history and culture that we see through the literature of Kalidas. I know every person sitting in this audience is an expert on Kalidas because being a student of Sanskrit, everybody knows Kalidas, everybody has seen, read, and learned Kalidas by heart as per his own capacity. But still, there have been, as a student of archaeology, I had to see some of the references which could relate to the material culture of the contemporary world in the literature of Kalidas. I'm going to see some case studies. But then before starting with the presentation, I would like to pray to the God Himself and His wife. Like Vagatha Vivasampruto, Vagatha Pratipataye, Jagatah Pitarau Vande, Parvati Parameshwar. Just as Kalidas when I had read them. We are going to see the references from the following texts. As these are some case studies, I have chosen the text Raghuvansha, Meghaduta, Madhavikagni Vikramorvashiyam, and Abhignana Shakunta. There also can be many more references that we could see in the other texts also. And I'm giving a disclaimer that because of the future problems of fonts, I have just used the diacritics till this point. After this, I have not used the diacritical marks. So first text that we are going to see is Raghuvansha. All of you are aware of the story of Raghuvansha. So here it is generally believed that when Kalidasa describes the Digvijay of Raghu or his military conquests, that is quite similar to the Samudragupta's Prashasti that we see at Allahabad. Samudragupta is the famous Gupta king who actually was the first Samrat of the Gupta Empire. And then during this period, the process of Gupta Empire becoming the golden age of India actually started because he defeated many kings and kingdoms in North India as well as South India. In Raghuvansha, we see similar conquests which were undertaken by Raghu, and including the sequence of the kings and the places, we see that the same pattern is seen in Raghuvansha as we see in Samudragupta Prashasti. So we'll see that first from Raghuvansha. Another interesting cultural input we'll have on the term Kakavaksha, and then the third input will be on Sudakshana's training in her pregnancy. So, firstly, we find that there are references to various military conquests of Raghu, and then there is a reference to the defeat of or his interaction with the Parasikas. The Parasikas are generally considered as the inhabitants of Persia, and they were called as Shakas in ancient India. The Shakas in ancient India were basically the Western Kshatrapa rulers, whom we know that Samudragupta's son, Chandragupta II, who was also called as Vikramaditya, he defeated them completely and then he took the title Shakari because he had completely cleaned the earth of the territory of that region and then he had got control over there. So the reference is there in the Raghuvansh series. It talks about the Parasikas, that is the Shakas of Western Kshatrapas, then Yavanas, who were probably Ionian Greeks, who were living in the northwestern regions of India, and they have been living there century BC. Then we